all the apes, all the lions, and all the monkeys and cats out
Yes.
there, unless you want to, invest in them because you're like interested in the
Mhm.
NFTs world. As an engineer, keep an eye on that and try to like
Mhm.
catch the gold in the middle of the night. I made a full roadmap about Web3, and if you search for Web3 roadmap, is like the first result on Google, and that's super cool.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Developers Cafe podcast. In this episode, I'm in conversation with Vitto Rivabella. We talk about Web3, the opportunities, the roadmaps, and other stuff regarding the same. Personally, I had a lot of fun talking with Vito, and I'm sure that you all folks will gain a lot out of it. At the same time, enjoy listening to this episode. Alright then, enjoy this one. Hi Vito, how are you doing? First of all, welcome to the show, and how are you doing?
Doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me here, Sanskar. Such a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine, Vito. Vito, could you just tell the audience about yourself, who you are, what you do? A brief intro.
100%, of course. I am Vitto, a web advocate and DevRel at Alchemy Platform, a node provider in the blockchain industry. Also, Web3 developer, ex full stack developer, building websites and so on and so forth. And previously, and that's super funny, I was a VFX supervisor. So I was working in the entertainment industry, creating digidoubles
Wow.
and 3D models, completely different stuff. But yeah, now creating content on Twitter, trying to build communities and onboard people in Web3.
Vito, I'm really interested to know how did your journey into Web3 begin? How did you start learning Web3 and basically sharing your content?
By the way, just because I'm Italian, I have like some coffee here that I'm gonna sip during our episode. By the way,
Awesome.
this is super funny because I'm not an investor myself, so I didn't have this like urgency of buying crypto coins because I wanted to make an awful lot of money, or I was more like on the NFT side at first, even if I wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
very aware of what the blockchain was, because VFX, 3D industry, 3D models. I thought, you know what, this is an amazing way for artists to make money. But then I'm a developer, right? I'm an engineer. I studied to become an engineer, and the things I love are usually engineering related. And so I was like, no, I need to understand how these thing work. I mean, it's a game changer because when you learn that
Mm.
they've been able, it's not just about cryptocurrencies and NFTs, but they've been able to solve trust process, right? Making things trustworthy, even if you don't have any kind of intermediaries to prove that something is trustworthy. I was like, no, I need to
Mm.
understand how they did it. And so I started like digging deeper into the rabbit hole, this famous rabbit hole that a blockchain is. And here we go. I deployed my first smart contract and I was like mind blown completely. And the cool thing is that because I was creating content on Twitter, everyone was super interested as well in the Web3 stuff. So I said, you know what, I want to dig deeper and also create content on that because it was convenient, right?
Mm.
I was creating content with a huge level of engagement while learning. That's a win-win situation. I was like, okay, let's learn it. And then, yeah, rabbit hole, Elan from Alchemy contacted me and I ended up working in the industry after, I think, 1 year more or less. Yeah.
Awesome, very inspirational, Vito. You know, Web3, there are NFT, there's Bitcoin, there's cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. But I want to ask you, if we talk about a developer, specifically from a developer's point of view, what is the most important aspect of Web3?
You mean from like a technological perspective or like a learning
Yep, yeah,
perspective?
both.
Okay. Like technologically wise, Web3 it's amazing because it allows people to exchange value even without using a third party's provider first. Second, see the blockchain as a database that you can use. I mean, it's not a convenient database because it's pretty slow and pretty expensive, but for any kind of sensitive information you want to store and want that information to be there lifetime, you want to use the blockchain. So think about it. When you, like, for example, I need to move the US to the US right now, so I'm waiting for my passport. And to do my passport, I had to go to the police station, give them all my documents. Actually, I had to insert my national ID into their website to
Hmm.
book an appointment, go there with a copy of my ID card, with a copy of a bunch of documents that were saying, yo, I'm okay, I never done anything bad, I can travel. And they needed like 15 days to verify everything, and then another 5 days to actually issue the passport. So it was like 20 days in total. And why that? Because they need to call any, all the components, all the people involved in the process of creating a passport. They need to verify actually that my identity and the things I said are real. And someone needs to put like a stamp on it and say, okay, you can go and get his passport. Now think if you had the blockchain, so you save everything, not you, but actually the state, your government you're in, or the police, if you do something that is illegal, for example, save that on the blockchain, and you can go and insert like your blockchain wallet address and a sort of verification thing. I don't yet know what, because we need to work on that. But that you can prove everything right away without the needs to go through all the process. So from like a technological standpoint, it's like ease of communication first between governments and people and people and people. So that's amazing. And second is definitely like the ownership of data, right? So at the moment, if you go on Twitter, if you go on YouTube and you produce content and you post a video on YouTube, or you tweet a tweet on Twitter, or you post cats pictures on Reddit, right? Those pictures, this content is not yours, because if you do something that is not like liked from YouTube or Twitter, they're gonna shut you off like in a matter of seconds, right? And you can't really say anything, because when you're signing up, when you're uploading anything, you're like accepting their TOS, their terms of services, and those terms of services are clearly stating, yo, see, look, that you don't own the content you're posting. If you go on Facebook and you look at those terms of services, are like awful, because you don't own anything, neither your name. So if they want like to use your full identity, they can do that. Right now they can't anymore in like Europe, because we have like strict rules about it, but they could, right? So on the other hand, on the blockchain, everything that is on the blockchain is not owned by any company. It's open for everyone to be there, to be modified by the owner, not by anyone else. So you can do whatever you want, right, with your data, and no one can actually monetize on top of it, because it's public. If everyone has it, the value is like no. So, and that's another thing. Now, from a developer standpoint, this is a super great question, because like yesterday I was speaking with this HR company. They're creating cohort-based courses where they like train not develop, like people in general. They partner with huge fund and normal companies as well to create these courses where they teach the essential skills the potential employee will need to have. And then they like organize the application and the interviews process and so on and so forth. It was super amazing. And the thing is that if you want to like as a developer, as a Web2 developer, you don't really need to change anything in your stack unless you want to start developing smart contracts. Because when we say like Web3 developer, we are actually meaning an awful lot of stuff. First, let me tell you that Web3 and Web2 are actually a marketing buzzword. It doesn't really mean anything, right? We had Web 2, but you didn't call like web developers Web 2 developers. That's super weird, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we shouldn't call as developers Web3 developers, because we have front-end developers, we have smart contracts developers, we have core blockchain developers. And what's the difference? Like core blockchain developers are like the super smart ones, right? The brains on legs. They use C++, they use Rust, they use a bunch of programming languages to bring the blockchain to life, thinking about the security, thinking about scalability, thinking about communication protocols and networking, and an awful lot of stuff. And they're like, this is super specific, but you don't need to learn like Web3 technologies or new technologies, because as said, they're using C++, they're using Rust, they're using C#, plain old programming languages that are working great, right? And then what I was saying is that, and blockchain developers core blockchain developers are using C++, C, so plain good old languages, right? Then we have front-end developers, and front-end developers are front-end developers, plain JavaScript, CSS, Tailwind. And then, of course, there's a difference that is on plain Web 2 development, in plain web development, without the blockchain involved. You use Fetch or Axios or any kind, of HTTP communication protocol library that allows you to perform post requests, GET requests to your backend. Smart contracts on the other end. So instead of having a server, you'll have smart contracts on the blockchain. So you'll need to communicate with those. And those, instead of HTTP, they use RPC. And RPC is, I can't recall the acronym at the moment, but by the way, it's like a JSON-based communication system that's faster and retain status. So it has a status. So you can actually fetch all the communication you instantiated, whereas on HTTP, when a communication is done, so you receive the data on the server, you can't really recall the data in that communication, right? There is no status. So the only difference is inserting and using a new library in your code. That might be web3.js, Alchemy web3.js, ether.js. There are a bunch of libraries out there. Now, backend development, there are two kinds of backend development. We have like good plain old backend developer done with PHP, Node, Express, do whatever you want, use whatever you want. Why that? Because even if you have the blockchain in the backend, you might know that, but anytime you want to communicate with the blockchain, you need to pay some sort of gas fees, right? Yeah. And these gas fees depend on how many operations you want to perform while doing a transactions. So if you have like 3 operations, depending on the kind of operations, you'll need to pay a certain amount of gas. And the actual price of the gas unit depends on network congestion and another bunch of things after the EIP 1559. That's another story, right? So what happens is that if you want to like use a ton of data, you want to save a ton of data, you need to pay a ton of money. Of course. So what you want to have, like a backend with a server that stores the data that you can fetch. The common data that you want to use, store it on a backend, on a server, on a database. It's perfectly fine, right? On the other hand, you have smart contracts on the blockchain. And backend, plain backend is done with Express and Node, like backends are done, nothing different. And then you have smart contracts. And that's literally like the only huge difference, because you have, if you want to develop like smart contracts on Ethereum, actually, because you need to learn Solidity. But if you want like to develop smart contracts on Solana, you can still using Rust. That is a plain old language that everyone like at Amazon are using Rust to build their backend infrastructure, right?
Right. Okay.
So that's the big view of Web3 world.
Awesome, Vitto. You put it very beautifully. You put the answer. But I'm very interested to know that if someone wants to become a Web3 developer, should he also have knowledge of the famous or big projects, like the big NFT projects?
No and yes. I mean, it depends. From a developer's standpoint, there is some time, like a very, very great NFT project that has a neat smart contract behind. Like if I think about Azuki, it's like a super new NFT thing, project collection that went great. They did an awful lot of money. But other than that, what's interesting from like an engineer's standpoint, right? Remove the investment, remove making money, remove all the speculation part. Think about, I'm an engineer, I love the technology, I want to understand how things work. They did like this super fancy 1721. 1721 is the ERC 1721, that is the standard for non-fungible tokens, NFTs. So it's like a set, it's like a class. If you're familiar with OOP, object-oriented programming, contracts are like classes. So you can inherit, and ERC 7021 is like a standard class, an interface. And they made this 7021A that essentially allows you to mint, so create a new record on the blockchain multiple times, like 5 times at once, without paying 5 times more gas. So the gas increasing is linear, whereas if you use the like plain old ERC 7021, it is exponential. So every time you want to mint a new NFT, you'll need to pay the whole amount of gases, and that's super neat. So to answer your question, no, you don't need to all the apes, all the lions, and all the monkeys and cats out there. Unless you want to, invest in them because you're like interested in the NFTs world. As an engineer, keep an eye on that and try to like catch the gold in the middle of the noise.
Vitto, if we talk about a junior developer who is just wanting to get into Web3, or for that matter, if someone has not coded for his life and just wants to get involved, so is it advisable to start straight away from Web3, and can someone do so in the first place?
Um, yes and no. And that's a great question. And it really depends on who you are. Um, if you're like an artist and you just want to create your own NFT collection, make money, monetize your art, it's perfectly okay. I mean, it's great. You don't really want to start from the fundamentals of programming, right? You want something
Exactly,
quick, you
right.
want to deploy it quickly. So it's great to start directly with Solidity, with a no-code tool. We at Alchemy have like a comprehensive documentation on how you can get started at Solidity, using Solidity and deploy your own NFT collection, ERC20, and whatever you want actually. And they're great. I mean, we have an awful lot of artists writing to us saying, hey, I've been able to deploy my NFT collection. That's great. Now, this has limits, huge limits, and these limits are like security limits, like big view, big picture limits, scalability, future improvements, tokenomics. You can't really implement all the features you want if you're not a developer. I mean, you can learn how to do it, but it will be, if you don't have the fundamentals, actually, not if you're not a developer, you will have like super hard times developing these things, right? On the other hand, if you're a developer, you really, really want to understand the fundamentals. Why? Because the level of responsibility you'll have working in a company will be much higher than like the level of responsibility an artist developing its own NFT collection will have. So you'll need to understand how security works, how to avoid people to steal like $300 million from your smart contract. So you really want to understand what everything is doing, how everything, again, if you want to be like a core blockchain engineer, if you want to be a smart contract engineer, if you want to be a front-end engineer, I mean, you'll need to learn the same things. So the question is not really valid. If you want to be a full stack engineer, you really want to understand how JavaScript works. You really want to understand how Tailwind CSS works, how backend works, how communication protocols, the web works. You want to have the big picture if you want to be a great developer. Now, here's another thing. You might like it, you might not, but we are like 7 billion people in this world. So this is not valid to anyone, right? If there are developers out there that started with Solidity and are making 6 figures per year, there is a component of luck.
Right.
There is a component of being in the right place at the right time with the right network.
Yeah.
Right. And that's true. I mean, if you want to maximize your like winning possibilities, your winning ratio, then you want to stand out from the masses. So you want to shine, and to shine, you want to be a great developer that knows the things he's writing or she's writing. And of course, I also think, but that's like a bit off topic, you want to build an online presence somehow to actually, again, we're 7 billion people. The hard truth is that no one give a shit about you. No one give a shit about anyone else than themselves, unless it's popular to support you. If it's popular to support you, everyone will do it. So becoming popular, it's like a life hack, a legit life hack where everyone will support you. Okay, but yeah.
Again, coming back to junior developers, if someone's listening to us and wants to get started with Web3, so what should be his first step? What should be his second step? And how should he continue from there on?
That's a good question. I think there are many ways. The first one is probably following a roadmap. If they're completely new in programming, like they never did any kind of programming before, that's super advertising, but I made a full roadmap about Web3. And if you search for Web3 roadmap, it's like the first result on Google. And that's super cool. And the thing is that you should start with like computer science and learn what is a computer. And it's not just, oh my God, I know what is a laptop or what is a desktop or what is a VGA. But it's more like, how are bytes stored? What is the stack? what is the leap, what is the memory in general, how do I use that, what is a variable, how is it stored, how is it is an array stored, what are memory indexes and pointers. And I don't think you should spend too much time on that, but just to give you like a brief understanding of the things you're working on, because people might start like with Python and then they use like for blah x in y. I think that is a for loop and the memory is actually reading that. No way, won't ever work. So really learn the fundamentals, then probably start with JavaScript or Python, just because as a programming language, I mean, from completely beginner, right? As a programming languages are easy to be understood, are easy to use. The libraries, there is a lot of documentation, thriving community is great, super funny actually. And that's what made me start programming, because at first I thought, no, programming is like for people that are super math proficient and they know how to do huge nope. The reality is in 2022 programmers are way more similar to DJs than actual mathematicians, right? That's funny and that's true. I have friends that really look like plain DJs, or they also DJs as well as programmers. That's super funny. And then move into there are the cool thing about Web3 is that everyone is having the educational issue, where everyone is saying, hey, how do I learn this? How do I learn that? How do I make sure that my contracts are secure? How do I create a roadmap? And the same actually happened in Web2 and web design. But the thing is that we were learning, right? But now we are creating these resources with the knowledge we gather during years and years of development, Web2 and creating content and so on and so forth. So Web3 educational platforms such as Web3 University, Learn Web3 DAO, Odyssey DAO, LearnWeb3.io. I think there are an awful lot. They have amazing platforms that will bring you like from zero to hero. We also have games like Crypto Zombies that will walk you through from 0 to hero in Solidity. So seriously, go and search for Web3 developer roadmap. Go through the roadmap, and that's the best answer I can give you.
Awesome answer, Vitto. That's the best answer. That's the best advice one can get. Finally, Vitto, can you play my speed test?
Oh my god. Okay, I'll start. Oh no, it's not writing actually. Oh yeah, it's working. No. I'm sucking at this actually. Oh yeah, I'm using 3 different keywords with 2 different layouts. One is Italian and the other is American. That is not actually American, it's from the UK. So that's my best score.
All right, Vitto. Thank you for chatting with us. It was lovely talking to you. I am sure that many folks will get knowledge out of this. So thanks a lot, Vitto. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you everyone for listening to it.